Hello everyone, and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. Another one in the series in which I'm taking a closer look at the full discography of the Beatles. And today I have arrived at their third album, A Hard Day's Night. Now, before putting this one on in the situation in which I'm listening to the chronological order of the albums, I thought I might be surprised in a certain way. Because, well, let's start off. This was never my favorite Beatles album. And that is perhaps strange. Because this is the first Beatles album I ever listened to. I looked inside my father's record collection, and my father was not a Beatles fan, but in the early days, I believe, somewhere in the 60s or 70s, he got A Hard Day's Night as a present. Now, the Beatles were not a band in our household which were frequently listened to. As a matter of fact, my parents never listened to the Beatles. My father thought they were sissies. His words, not mine. And he was more of a Rolling Stones guy. And he said the Rolling Stones had a real rough edge, and the Beatles were, it doesn't really matter. But I read so much about the Beatles online, and I thought, I gotta give it a shot. So I found that vinyl, A Hard Day's Night, a stereo pressing, Dutch stereo pressing, in his collection, and I put it on. And I guess I was way more into hard rock, or later on when I listened to the White Album, it did drop, it did get into me. But this album, though, in that time, did not get close to me. Now, same thing with the movie of this album. I bought it on DVD because I read so much great comments on it, and it didn't really grab me. Now, I bought it on Blu-ray, and I used to program movies in a concert hall here in Amsterdam, Q Factory, and I did a screening of A Hard Day's Night, beautiful print of Criterion, and although I didn't think it's bad or anything like that, but people who talk about the film and about this record seem to have much more of an element of direct love for it than I have experienced. And I hoped that today, when I would put that record on, that would go away. It might be the case that the album is linked to the film, and there's an element of nostalgia there, and the idea of hanging out with the Beatles may have a certain flow when you enjoy the film, and that listening to the album gives you the sense of hanging out with the Beatles, and they're funny guys, and you want to hang out with them, whereas I'm a bit more narratively driven, so I like the film. I like it, fair enough. I don't love it. And I'm afraid the same thing can still be said for this album when I just put it on. Now, I should note that what I did notice for this time listening to it, a lot is going perfectly. I mean, this is obviously a good album, and you can hear that Paul McCartney and John Lennon are experimenting much more with a more diverse sound. You can hear it especially on And a Lover, for example, in which they they take less of a higher speed, a slower speed. The acoustic element, I like the way that the drums are actually not a real drum set, I believe, but a tom or something like that. Really interesting. The record is more diverse in its writing, and they are approaching different styles. They are developing. They are certainly developing. Well, I'm not gonna be negative about it, because I mean, any record that starts off with the song "A Hard Day's Night" is cool. I mean, the strange chord when it hits, and then the powerful opener. I mean, it's a very, very good opener. I should have known better. It's a great song as well. If I fell in love, it's beautiful. I mean, that's beautiful. There are some beautiful, really beautiful songs, and I love her. I mean, tell me why, and can't buy me love. That's also one hell of a song. Great, awesome song. Then side two opens with anytime at all. Great song. I'll cry instead. Things we said today. When I get home, you. But you know what? this album is not as energetic as with the Beatles. I have the feeling. I also noticed that they are trying different things in composing, slightly different. I mean, we're not nearly there at Revolver yet, but they are trying different things, and it's interesting. It's interesting, but it doesn't grab me as much. It doesn't grab me by the balls as with the Beatles does, and that might also be one of the elements. The chronological order is not going to change. As a matter of fact, it's going to heighten that. Because With the Beatles was so amazing and a punch in the face. And this is a very good album. The first album Lennon and McCartney wrote. This is the first album with no covers at all. I mean, they wrote the entire album. I mean, it's an accomplishment. It's really an accomplishment. And they are in development. But can it be that there is an element of weariness amongst the band? I mean, this is the third album which they recorded in a year's time. They did loads of television gigs, loads of live gigs. They were doing a film at the time. I'm not sure. For me, it's a good album, but something might be off. Might be slightly off. And it might also just be my personal experience that the first time I listened to it, it just didn't grab me. And now I enjoy it, I like it, it's a good album, but it doesn't grab me the way most other Beatles albums do. So, well, that is my take. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I think I'm going to have a lot of disagreeing moments. But please feel free to disagree and leave a comment below, and I'll see you in the next video, The Beatles for Sale.